Welcome to the Forager Podcast, where I talk with cottage food entrepreneurs about their strategies for running a food business from home. I'm David Crable, and today I'm talking with none other than the Miracle Twins, Heather and Corrie Miracle, who run Sugar Cookie Marketing. But real quick, I wanted to check, have you created a website for your business yet? And if you have, do you pay for it? A lot of entrepreneurs still think they need to spend money to get a good website, and that is simply not true anymore. I am a really big fan of Square Online. That's what I use for my Fudge Business's website, and I created a free tutorial that will walk you through how to set up a totally free website in less than an hour. And in case you think free also means cheap, it's actually quite the opposite. I think Square Online is hands down the very best website tool for most cottage food businesses, and it's even better than any of the paid services out there. So if you want to learn more, you can watch my free tutorial by going to forager.com/website. All right, so I have Heather and Corrie Miracle on the show today. They live in Fairfax, Virginia, and really need no introduction, but I'm going to introduce them anyway. The twins have many different businesses, actually. Corrie does have a decorated cookie business called Mixing Bowl Cookie Company. They also run in-person cookie decorating classes, and they have a digital marketing agency called Target Rocket. But they are best known for their most recent business venture, Sugar Cookie Marketing, which started just 2 years ago as a Facebook group and has become wildly popular. That group now has over 36,000 members, and trust me when I say that it is one of the most active, positive, fun, and helpful Facebook groups that you will ever find. But the twins didn't stop there. They now also host the popular Baking It Down podcast, where they share tons of marketing tips each week. They also run the Cookie College, which is a premium membership that includes its own private Facebook group, its own podcast, and advanced tutorials. And they also run 2 other free Facebook groups, each of which have thousands of members. I could go on, but needless to say, what Heather and Corrie have created is simply incredible. But how did they get to this point? Who are these Miracle Twins? What drives them? Why were they successful? And do they get any sleep? These are the questions that we want to know, and that's what we're about to cover, and so much more. Of course, as usual, they will be sharing plenty of great business advice along the way. This is part 1 of my conversation with the twins, and with that, let's jump right into this episode. Welcome to the show, Heather and Corrie. Nice to have you here.
Thank you so much, David.
Well, I usually start episodes by asking people to go back to the beginning of their journey, but today I'm going to do it a little different because I think I should start with the most important question I possibly could ask you guys, which is, who is the favorite twin?
David, let me take this one over. Being the favorite twin, I think I'm an expert on this.
Here, I'll give Corrie this. In this space, I don't know how to bake. I don't do it. And what I do know how to do is organize, and people hate it. So,
but let me just talk to Heather. If I didn't have her, I wouldn't have the sales rolling in because of my
You'd be
website.
A ship without a sail in the ocean, but you'd have a delicious ship.
By myself.
I'd be a sail in the ocean with no ship.
It's really, honestly, one helps the other. I'm just the better looking of the two.
All right. Well, obviously you have a very fun dynamic, and that is apparent through all of what you create. And I do want to go back before you started Sugar Cookie Marketing to see what got you guys here. So can we take it back to when you were kids, right? Or when you were students? What were you like? What were you like in school? Were you guys outgoing? Were you popular? Funny? Were you shy? Did you guys get along? What was it like being the Miracle Twins?
These are good.
I want to lead with this. My mom really liked to cut her hair short. David, your hairstyle. So that's what we were working with.
We started with short hair, but it never held back our level of nerdy confidence.
Yeah.
We were as nerdy could be.
Best collection of B-Stores Transformers you've ever seen. My Micro Machine collection was enviable world over. But we went to private school, so
it was a tiny private school. So when you say if you were the popular kids, I think everyone was popular.
I think we
because
just
the
had
class
majority votes.
Yeah, we swayed the votes of the class. Like, do you want to have PE here or PE there? Me and you voted, and that was half
That's
the
where we had
class.
PE. Yeah. So not a ton of options, no bullying. It was a religious school, so it was very much they have short hair, they have short hair. But my mom really liked cutting her hair short for whatever reason. She said, I think it was cute. My dad said, when we turned 15, I was really good at laser tag, just so you know. We had many laser tag birthdays. You know, we got all our classics. We had to invite all 5 people. And they say, can we get the birthday boys to the front? And then they panic, right? Of course, Corey and I are like idiots.
Yay!
No, they're girls. And then after our birthday party, I absolutely slaughtered at laser tag. Then my dad says, wife, you're not cutting their hair anymore. That was insane.
So I know that you guys are super creative, super enthusiastic in your group. I just was wondering, like, is that something that you always had?
Yeah. When we had the short haircuts, we had to be really good at our personalities and quick wit.
I think everyone should cut their kids' hair short.
So when someone sent like a mean phrase over to us, we were able to like volley it back with something that crumbled.
Right. But I'll say that Corrie was a lot more entertaining when we were growing up. So she was voted leader of the girls' club.
I was.
And I wasn't. But my parents let us do any extracurricular, even against our will. So we were always in piano lessons. Voice lessons was a mistake, but we were in that. Drawing classes, horseback riding lessons. That was a mistake. Sorry to the horses. We were not good.
We were not.
Gymnastics.
Yeah, we did speech stuff.
Corrie was
all that
really
kind
into
of
giving
stuff.
speeches.
So were we creative? Yeah.
Were we?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
As creative as now?
No.
There's a lot of tools. But I think they all built on each other. So, of course, it was the building blocks probably maybe to where we're at now.
I think what that honestly made us good at is being good at failure.
That's a good one. That was a good one.
We don't get told no when we fail things.
Yeah.
We keep on chugging.
Yeah.
But David, let me talk to the competition between us two. We've never not been in competition. Even to this day, we're in competition together. But what it's done for us is made us super trying to outbest the other one.
Yeah. Unlike twins who have each other's back, we were the first to tell on each other. So it kept us kind of always on the same side at odds. If Corrie got in trouble, I got in trouble. So it is in my best interest to make sure that she at least passed the test.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. But I don't think we were on the same side, even though we are 100% growing up together. Like we shared our first car, we shared a job, shared rooms. Yeah. That's why I tell everybody, we do not live together. Thank you so much. Do not live together. But yeah, so that we went to this private school up until 8th grade. Then we switched to another private school for, high school. And then we went to college. And then Corrie was like, I'm going to start life without you, Heather.
And
she got married.
I got married and had a kid. And Heather's
said, no, I think I'll not
living
have a
that
child.
crazy nightlife, going out on the town.
Right. We definitely went our separate ways at 19. Like we didn't even talk for about 2 years, which I think is pretty crazy, but it was a really great change in our dynamic from being these like, I hate you, but I'm going to help you, to like, oh, that's what I'd look like with
You're
a kid.
not so horrible to hang out with.
Yeah. So after that 2-year hiatus, which I don't think anybody realizes, that for 2 years, no one knew I was a twin. I was like, great.
And you were sad.
Devastated. But then we came back together and then we'd go on, we call them twin trips once a summer. And I would just sit there and we'd typically go to Virginia Beach or something and say, I just really think we can get into marketing. We both work marketing jobs. Why not just take the agency approach versus, being W-2 for companies? And then one day, Tuesday, like an odd Tuesday, right? Nothing happens on a Tuesday. Corrie calls and she's like, hey, you know that marketing agency you want to start? Yeah. Well, let's do it tomorrow. I said, that's a weird thing to say on a Tuesday. She said, I just quit my job and I don't want to do it anymore. I want to do this. And that is how we started a business together.
It was crazy.
So that was over 5 or 6 years ago. And then we've been doing that ever since. And then COVID kind of switched things up.
All right. So I saw before that a couple little tidbits from LinkedIn. Corrie, you were a used car saleswoman.
I love it. As dirty as they come.
Can I sell you a car?
Come on, take a seat.
So obviously there's a stigma to that, but you obviously had a lot of experience in sales before starting this business, right?
Yeah. That car sales business taught me so much. I cried even more, but I learned a lot about dealing with people, the sales process, and what to do to make a sale where both people leave happy. That's the thing that I think I learned the most. You don't want one person leaving happy and the other person leaving crying out of their new car.
Are you sure, car salesman?
Oh, that was a crazy job.
Well, the other side of that, Heather, I also picked this up from LinkedIn. Maybe you know where I'm going with this.
I think I do, because there's only one interesting thing.
Saw that you're a bikini fitness competitor.
She
I
did. She did.
Yeah, I was in a relationship with a guy, and he was like, "What are your New Year's resolutions?" And I was like, "You know what? I'd like to think I could compete in one of those fitness competitions. Like, I'm not going to, but I would just like to think that I could." And he was like, "You want to eat your donuts?" And I was like, "Excuse me?" He was like, "No, you want to say you're doing something, but you don't want to fully commit."
So what you did was went and signed up right then.
I hate being told I can't do something.
Yeah. Even though she didn't know she was going to go through with it, she had no meal plan, no idea where all the little, how to sign up. She went and
I found the bodybuilding.com forums. I had written there and asking a couple questions on like macros or something. And a guy was like, "Hey, I actually remotely train fitness competitors," and he answered some questions. So when the donut comment came, I knocked back on that guy's digital door and I said, "Hey, can you take me on as a client?" So I think, yeah, that was...
What, did you train for 9?
I ended up pulling a muscle halfway through.
Yeah.
So I took a small 3-month break. And then I think in total, I was with that guy for about 12 months.
I just thought it was ironic because, I mean, you were so focused on health, right? And healthy eating. And now you pretty much help people sell mass quantities of cookies.
Believe it or not, she still doesn't know how to bake, David. She is not the baker.
No. But so when COVID hit, I said, this is the original story. Corey's like, "Well, I have all these cookies. I need to still practice. Do you want to eat them?" And I was like, "Absolutely. Yeah, they're delicious." And then a friend of mine was like, "Hey, do you want to go skydiving?" Well, in the skydive center here in Virginia, you stand on this giant scale and then they shout out the number. And I stood on the scale and I said, "Oh my goodness, Corey, how many calories was in those cookies?" And she's like, "Oh, a ton. You've been downing them like it's a second breakfast." I said, "They shouted it and tied me to a person to jump out of the plane."
My cookies are delicious. That's what I got out of that story.
They are good.
Well, it also shows case just like how competitive you guys are. I mean, you talked about how you are super competitive, and how do you feel like that has affected your business? Like, has that been an important trait to have as you move forward with your business?
I don't
Almost
know.
in an unhealthy way.
Unhealthy way. So if I bring on a client, Heather will be like, "Well, I brought on this client." I'll be like, "Be right back. I'm going to go bring on another client."
Like even Corey's like, "Hey, I know you made a sheet for transfers for icing. I wish you would have done a pie in this style." Okay, here's your pie in this style. Like it's like good because you keep pushing, but it's almost like the finish line was way back there, and we're like, "No, I'll beat you," but we're way down there. Yeah. So toxically healthy is the word I'm going to choose.
All right, so let's move into your digital marketing agency. You started this company. What took you through getting that started, and what did you learn in the process?
Well, I will say for 1 whole year, we did not pull a paycheck.
But I know, and you know, David, SEO, internet marketing is the way of the future. At least in my little world, that's where it's headed. So in the day job I was working for at that time in property restoration, I was like, "Hey guys, let me focus on the website. Let me do SEO. I've taken these classes on my personal time. Let's optimize this. Let's, build these sites out." And they were like, "No, we believe that in-person marketing is the only way. If we never had to worry about online leads, we wouldn't. Also, can you help us get us delisted from Yelp? We don't like our bad reviews." So I was like, "Oh, wow. That's absolutely the opposite direction I wanted to head in." So that's when I was talking to Corey kind of about like this, SEO has been around since the advent of the internet, but it's changing. It's this semantic stuff. It's this more cohesive approach. I think we can really help websites kind of, dig in. So she and I, after she called me on that Tuesday, we sat down, we took the Google Analytics certification, we took the Google AdWords, it was used to call it certification, just to kind of take these classes. And then, I was still working my day job because I didn't violently quit on a Tuesday. But Corey would show up to my apartment and she would work 9 to 5 on this company. And then I would swing by after hours and we just keep kind of plugging away for 1 year. And then we started getting clients. And that's where we learned about boundaries.
That's true. I will say my husband was not for me quitting my job and us starting an agency together.
Really?
He was very angry about it.
Well, what it seemed like what you focused on with this digital agency was local marketing, right, for small businesses. So, I mean, that obviously ties directly into this transition into your sugar cookie marketing. But you did this digital marketing agency. Sounds like it was pretty successful, right? So how did you end up transitioning? Not away from it. I know you still do it, but you obviously transitioned
COVID
into this.
It was like, Boo Bear, you're going to transition away from
When
this.
COVID started, we didn't hit any bumps in the road for the first few months. But we said, we were looking over the horizon. We said, we need to brace ourselves.
Because they were kind of saying, hey, this, obviously, eggs in a basket. We had really built up service-based businesses that dealt a lot with in-person communication and sales. So when the COVID quarantine came in Fairfax, first they kind of said it's only 2 weeks. So we've got, clients, hey, can you just put up this notification that we're going to be remote for 2 weeks? Then 2 weeks, then 3 weeks, then 4 weeks. And then it starts dragging into 2 months. Like, this is a part where people are like, hey, we've got to start cutting costs, and marketing always gets cut first. So they were like, we really like you guys, but it's not you, it's us. Like, that's kind of thing. So Corey, I was like, Corey, like, we kind of put all these eggs in the service-based aspect of it. And what no one predicted is that service-based businesses were going to see this larger uptick later on. But for then, we were like, well, we got to do something. So she was like, it's so funny. I've been doing these cookies. Obviously, I had been eating them professionally now at this point, 3 or 4 months. She's like, I see a little gap in the sugar cookie market of all the stuff, the same way you sell cars, the same way you sell roofs, you can sell cookies. And I just don't think that information has really infiltrated so much this sugar cookie thing. Do you want to try something? Yeah, sure. Okay, great. Yeah, let's do something.
I think when you're in the marketing space, me and Heather are thinking marketing constantly. When we walk into Target, the signs, I'm reading them. I'm trying to think, how are they trying to get money out of my pocket and into theirs?
Turns out they're very good at it.
They're very great at it. I've taken many notes for Target. But what we didn't realize was not everyone thinks that way. A lot of people start off cookies as a hobby. It's something fun. And then they realize it's costing them a lot, or their friends and family are like, hey, I would like to buy them from you. When I realized that, like, hey, we could help these people, think broad and think big in business like, that's why I pulled Heather on and said, let's start a group.
Turns out I was doing nothing, so I was in.
And Corey, when did you actually start making and selling the cookies? What was the time frame there?
I want to say about 4 years ago.
I want to say I witnessed it the first day. First, it was like, some family member was like, let's grab bakery items from the discount section at Walmart. So they're up here and they're like, it looks terrible.
It was horrendous.
I was like, well, at first you don't succeed. I don't know why you were so dedicated to this idea.
See, here's that competition. You told me, like, better look next time. And I said, I'm going to prove her wrong.
I said, wow, you have tried. But what made you want to do the first cookie?
You know what? I just saw those beautiful Instagram videos and I said, you know what? I can do that. And then when it didn't work into my favor at the beginning, I said, okay, this is going to be a little bit more harder work than I thought. Thought it was going to come naturally, just not.
You really kind of tripled down. And then you did that blobby heart that you named Bob. The blob.
Bob the blob. The heart.
And then what? I remember the clouds. I ate them. So
yes, I did like cactus. What's great, David, is my husband is on the police force. So anything that you like make at the home, they just bring it to the department and everyone just chows down. So he was bringing my ugly creations and people are like, what is this?
I think someone's like, she's really trying.
So they kind of helped me so I didn't have such a backlog at home. So Heather was eating them. The police department was eating them. My neighbors were eating them.
I was eating a lot.
And then you decided to start selling them? When?
Well, I think about a year into it, I said, you know what? I started just like everyone else. I said, this is going to be a hobby of mine. My son, I think, was in middle school or around that age. He was younger. And I said, this is just going to be a hobby. And then I was like, oh, people make Instagram and Facebook pages to show off their creations.
It's the marketing finds you.
So I said, I do kind of want to show off my little creations, never expecting to sell something. then someone reaches out to me and says, hey, I need an order for 24 cookies. And I was like, oh my goodness, a sale.
And Corrie came in, price what's fair, not what your numbers
I
are.
priced it so low, David. I said, well, this is horrendous. But I was so happy to tell my husband, like, hey, look, this thing that's costing me $1 bazillion, I'm getting ready to make $20 off of it.
Corrie got mad at me once. And I was like, that same annoying boyfriend with the donuts, definitely, we're not together, by the way. I said, hey, Corey's really mad. Like, I don't know how to get back in her good graces. He's like, well, what's she into? I don't know, this cookie thing. He's like, we'll take her to a class. So I found this, like, I went to Eventbrite, find a class. It only has 2 seats left. It's like Valentine's Day themed. So we went to class. Of course, I'm terrible. Corey's pretty good. But we walk out and she's like, I honestly think I could teach these classes. So right here was the idea.
Yeah.
Right.
Give credit where credit's due.
And I did see that you started actually teaching classes, and was that like just right before the pandemic, I think?
We timed it perfectly.
Yeah.
Did you like that? So, yeah, we had launched a class. Okay, cool. Like before the shutdown, but it was definitely perfectly timed. I want to tell you that there's no more perfect timing than this horrendousness. So we post the class. My mom immediately signs up. Like, bless her little risky soul.
Yeah.
Then the government shut everything down. And then people were like, you better cancel this class.
Teach a class.
So Corey and I were like,
no.
ooh, oh no. Oh, okay. So we canceled the classes for the first 3 or 4 months of COVID. And then people were like, can you please start the classes? Oh my goodness, people, what do you want? But when we started the classes back up, again, we followed the state protocol on the guidelines. So it was like masks, and Corey and I had these like dog collar masks. It was very spacey, and it would fog up because we have high pitched voices and talk a lot. But yeah, then we started doing them. And I think we've done we used to be crazy and do 3 classes on Saturdays, but now we've slowed down a bit in our old age down to 1, but it's fine.
And then, even though the pandemic slowed that down a lot in the beginning, it probably became very popular because people are looking for something to do with their time, right?
You know what I like to tell people? If you go to trends.google.com and search the keywords, which I'm sure you do as like an SEO, but like when you look at that, before COVID, the trends of sugar cookies was headed downwards year over year. Then COVID completely kind of changes this trajectory back up. So I'm curious to see where we'll be in another 5 years. But COVID, as much as it took, it also shifted back. And then I said to Corey, like, I was traveling up to Michigan, and it was October 30th. And it was that first year where everyone's like, is Halloween canceled or are we allowed? Like, and so I said, Corey, let's just try these DIY kits. Like, you'll bake them. Like, I'm obviously not there, but so I'm pulling off on the side of the Pennsylvania Turnpike, right? I got my hotspot in my Chromebook. A police officer pulls up beside me. Are you okay? Sir, I'm trying to sell DIY kits. Can I have 5 minutes? He's like, absolutely. And just making sure you're fine. We list these DIY kits and they sell out immediately. Maybe even 30 to 40 kits. And I was like, wow, COVID has truly changed this landscape of what people are looking to do to entertain their kids when in this kind of social distance environment. And I think that we're still holding on to that even today. Because our cookie classes fill up kind of pretty fast. Granted, 2 or 3 years of marketing it. But I haven't seen a huge downturn. I think the sugar cookie world has gained a lot from kind of a very weird new normal.
And I will say, I think a lot of bakers came in during the quarantine. And that's why we also saw that there was no one really there to hold the hands of new bakers. I wish someone would have held my hand, so I didn't sell that 2 dozen for $20. So I said, hey, I think we could help these new folks just coming into the realm of baking and get them started off on the right foot. So they're not spending a ton of money and quitting because either burnout, the cost involved, like they really have a shot at making it happen.
Well, you say that the cookie decorators didn't really have somebody help them when they were starting out. But cookie decorating was not a new thing. It was a very mature market, right? And there have been people that have been around for a decade that have been teaching this stuff, right? So did you feel like, I don't know, was there part of you that questioned if maybe the market was a little bit oversaturated?
Definitely from how to learn it. Like, I think my grandma's cookbook tells you how to learn it. But how to effectively sell things using economic principles and packaging and, your logo maybe shouldn't take up the whole screen. That I thought maybe the voice teaching that could be a tinge bit louder than what we saw.
Were you guessing, or did you do like research on this?
It was a guess. No, I've been in the groups for so long. That's why I had brought it to Heather. I said, hey, a lot of times people are telling people to price their products, like less than the guy next to them so they can, get the deal, get the sale. And I said, but like, you can't price on feelings. You can't price on that. A lot of this stuff derived from the SEO world where like, I'm in these SEO groups and I'm like, hey, I'm trying to price out this service. And this guy comes, of course, SEO being more male dominated, they do not care. He was like, you idiot, you're ruining it for the rest of us. And I was like, oh my good, like, sir, I'm just trying to learn. He was like, no, the more you price low, the more it's a race to the bottom for the rest of us. So stop underpricing yourself so I can charge what my services are worth. Of course, like, I'm like, yeah, okay, thank you for the help. But like, that's the stuff that we could take into the cookie world because it does make a lot of sense. It is a race to the bottom when it becomes a price strategy. It's a math problem. And that's why I like math because it's so unemotional. You can't price less than the labor costs. There's a math problem that spits out the number that you have to charge. And I joined every group. And most of the questions were like, I had color bleed last night. What do we do to fix it? But nothing was really centered around, I really want to start teaching cookie decorating classes. What are the 5 places I need to list my classes at so that I can sell out?
Yeah, let's talk about search engine optimization and Google business profiles and all these lead gen sources that we've been building for these, service-based businesses, making a killing with huge margins on roofs. And let's apply it to cookies.
All right, so you obviously have a decade of experience learning SEO, learning social media. You ran this agency. Obviously, Corrie, you've been making cookies, selling cookies, trying to do classes before really kicking this sugar cookie marketing thing into gear. But, for the cookie world, right? I mean, they didn't really know who you were, even though you had all this experience, right? Did you feel like you were new kids on the block, or like how did you get noticed or paid attention?
I felt like, how our childlike selves where we thought we were popular, but we weren't. We're just nerdy. I felt like that carried us through this. But we started the group and we didn't think anyone was going to join it. We knew our stuff when it came to marketing and, it's factual and it works. So we said we needed just a few people to join to take that risk and believe what we were preaching. And a few of them did. And that's what made it spread like wildfire. People were saying like, oh my goodness.
But again, it comes down to your target audience. And Corrie and I learned that the real hard way through the agency that, someone, I can't afford this doesn't mean I need to charge them less. It means that they're warning you, hey, I'm going to be, it's always like the 20-80 rule. The 20% of your best clients account for 80% of your revenue. When you bring that into kind of what we wanted to start, it may not be the perfect message for everyone, but the people who do find us and resonate, that 20%, they'll probably see that 80% that we need. And I think, unless people are lying, that it's working out really nicely. I think a lot of people are succeeding in the ways that make me feel like, okay, good. This is good. This means that this is working for people.
Well, hey, congratulations in order because you just hit your 2-year anniversary, right?
We did. I can't believe it feels like 10 years. No, but 2 years has just honestly flown by.
Shortest, longest 2 years of my life.
So 2 years, I mean, that's really not that long of a time in business sense, but let's just talk about what you got going on, right? You got 4 permanent groups that you are moderating and posting in. I know that the main sugar cookie one has over 36,000 members. Another one has over 11,000 members. These are very sizable groups. So that's like a full-time job in my mind. Then you got 2 podcasts that you're running, one public and one kind of private paid for. You are publishing tutorials, both free and paid, every single month. I calculate you're at least posting to 7 separate Facebook and Instagram accounts consistently, and you're creating TikTok videos. You're also somehow still running in-person cookie decorating classes. You're somehow still selling cookies and taking orders. And I think you still do marketing consulting for other businesses, right? To help them with their
I'm tired.
Marketing.
You're listening to me tired. Yeah, we still have our marketing. There's no time in the day, David. From when
do you guys get any sleep?
No.
We do this like transfer of the guard. Like Corrie goes to bed way early to me. Like, when do you go to sleep? 9:30?
Yeah.
And then I typically stay up till midnight And then I go to bed, and then she wakes up at 6:30, and then I lovingly wake up at like 9. So like we're there. There's only a smidgen amount of time.
The plus side to having a twin.
But I will say, like, virtual assistants, support people, that goes a really long way. I wish we had more, but the gems that we do have are just saving graces.
To live life without.
Okay, so you have a lot of team members, right? Like, how many team members do you have helping you out?
We have 1 or 2 VAs that come in when we need them, kind of just monitoring kind of all the menial tasks. And they're like, yeah, I'll do that. Amy is a great admin that she deletes first, asks questions later. So she monitors the Sugar Cookie marketing group. And then I hate to give credit to Admin Assist, but that's like a little free virtual assistant by Facebook. So that guy kind of monitors a lot of stuff. Kind of once you really kind of dig into group settings, there's a lot of power that Facebook has built with AI, which is a little crazy because Corey always gets in trouble with it as well. So yeah, I'll say that is our team currently.
It's a small team, but it's a good one.
It sounds a lot smaller than it should be based on how much you have in the air. And then Corey, you also, you have a son on top of this, right? Like
I said we should get
mom.
him involved in this.
Yeah, he's about 13 though, so now he's like that self-licking ice cream, stage. So he's top of his class.
Self-licking ice cream?
Self-licking ice cream cone, yeah.
Self-licking.
He can do his own thing.
Oh,
Self-licking ice cream cone.
Okay.
He can take care of himself.
Did you make that up right now?
No, I think that's been around, but I'll Google it after this. But he's a straight A student. He is following in his mom's footsteps of nerdiness. So he reads for fun. He makes mom proud. I don't feel
He has a YouTube channel. I have to watch every video. I know a lot about Roblox and Minecraft now. But we try, like, we have 2 other sisters. Our older sister is involved in the marketing side of a finance application. So she can she sends me books and notes and stuff. And then my little sister is an accountant, but we've been begging her to like do something. She's like, nah, I don't have any desire, but I like seeing the photos. So keep posting them.
Does it ever feel overwhelming just having to you created this humongous thing, right? And does it ever feel like you're just trying to keep up with it all the time?
You hit the nail on the head. It can get overwhelming. It can get a lot of people saying your name, a lot of tags, a lot of time going out, that we don't get to spend necessarily with our families. But what is really what we're addicted to is when people are like, oh my goodness, thanks for the tip you gave me last week. I made X amount of dollars and never thought this is going to be my life. Or someone saying, I quit my full-time job. Now I get to stay at home with my kids and bake and do what I love. And that's we're always chasing that high. So even though it does feel overwhelming,
this sounds like a really unhealthy work relationship. But my grandfather was a business owner and my dad's a business owner. So working is a part of what we've always done. However, I will say that if anybody else probably saw how late the computer's on, they'd be like, that's unhealthy. But what else am I gonna do? It's so fun. I can post a meme. I posted a meme that when it hit yesterday, David. That's why I'm on this high. But people are like, that's so funny. And I'm like, oh my goodness, something I made or something I knocked off. People are LOLing about. And I think that that's kind of what keeps you going because it's this is fun. I can create something and it can make a difference or people can laugh or it brings a community together. However, no, I'll say if somebody watched us working, they'd probably be like, yankers, that's not good.
So how much time do you guys actually spend on social media every day? Either creating or consuming social media?
Me, an ungodly amount.
And I don't use social media during working hours. So Corey's like, you're not even existent in the groups. You only just post your memes and leave. But she's managing and monitoring and cleaning up and responding. And then she'll say, hey, so while I'm like, okay, the podcast editing, this is me. The newsletter, this is me. The organization and then, interfacing with the clients from the day job is going to be me. She'll say, hey, do this. And then I'll pass. So we have a Monday morning meeting. A stand up. Now we just call and we spend about 30 to 45 minutes kind of say, here's the strategy. Here's what's coming up. Make sure you're here for David's podcast at 1. Don't make me call. And then we kind of knock it out that way. So Asana is a project management software we use, big part of keeping everything going and on time. And then really kind of setting up boundaries with clients like, hey, no, COVID proved that we actually don't need to meet face to face and we can do a quick phone call and that'll be completely fine. So in this area where it's an hour commute to get to a meeting, we're able to kind of carve out time that way. automation. That's why I preach it so hard in the group, is automation cleans up a lot of work that people are like, how do you get that organized? I didn't. Zapier did it. And I have that form talks to this form that sends this email. Once you kind of start falling in love with automation, it kind of really kind of looks like you're doing more than you ever had to do.
Do you have your business tasks pretty well separated from each other? So you have your own spaces that you're working on?
I'm not turning on an oven. I got a boundary there. It's just not something I'm going to do. And then she does the kitchen stuff. She kind of sources supplies and everything. And then we just kind of reconvene. Hey, I need this from you. Like I'll say, hey, I need this. Or she'll be like, hey, can you print me a 3D cookie cutter?
But even though Heather has never turned on the oven a day in her life, she can teach a cookie class. She has memorized how to teach a cookie class. Ask her something off the script.
You're cratering right there. We got a little over. Let me show you how to fix that. You're going to want to grab your scribe right now.
Yeah. If they ask her a technical question, she's like, Corrie, come over.
You bring up a great question. Corrie, let's talk about it.
Heather, do you ever feel like a fish out of water in like building a business around something maybe you're not even that passionate about?
I think that's a great question. And I look at Corrie's cookies, and I've even tried to like ice them. Remember, I went to that class. And I'm like, oh, this is just, there's not a ton of joy for me. But the joy, and that's where Corrie and I have always kind of contrasted, is I really like organization. I really like the business side. I will be taking a QuickBooks class, as much as I hate that application, and just kind of organizing and say, hey, Corrie, like, here's what we're doing. Look at this automation, like stuff like that.
While she isn't passionate about baking, she's passionate about winning marketing when it comes to baking. Because if our clients, in our day job and in the sugar cookie marketing group, win, it's regardless of what, avenue that it is, a roofer or a baker. That's where Heather really has the passion for it.
So, I mean, you obviously work really well together. I'm just thinking, like, this is such a big thing now, but it does seem like tied to you two as a pair. Like, what if one of you was just like, you know what, I can't do it anymore? Heather, would you keep doing it on your own? Or Corrie, would you keep doing it by yourself?
I told Corrie, it was not as nice as you said. I said, if you died in a car accident on the way to cookie class, what would I do? And I thought about it. The issue with being twins is that, like, if Corrie was crying because she skinned her knee, I'd be like, oh, child, crying because you skinned your knee. And she's like, I'm not crying, you are seeing things. And so there's just that whole, like, emotional side. I think we've really kept each other at bay from our feelings, right? So I said, if Corrie ever stopped, I would just have to learn it. Because if I partnered with somebody and they got overwhelmed, I wouldn't know what to do.
Corrie, what about you? It's the same story?
Well, I think if Heather wasn't around, I'd have to pack up the ship.
I asked her, she said I would just keep selling the cookies.
I keep selling the cookies. I think Heather is very, very smart and very dedicated at learning things that are new. So because she is so smart and dedicated at learning new things, I don't have to. So I would have to be like, where's the password to the website?
I said, Corrie, because I really like motorcycles. I said, if it's us that were in a motorcycle accident, you need to not look for my body, but find the phone. It has like Google Authenticator and you're going to need it. So I don't know. I think Heather could learn baking. I don't know if I could learn what Heather knows. I just want to say anybody can learn anything. And once you realize that, I can learn baking and Corrie can learn back end. We all have the same 24 hours. You can learn absolutely anything. Don't let anyone make fun of you.
You might be able to learn anything, but do you think that anybody would be just passionate about the creativity aspect of cookies? Like, do you think it takes a certain type of person to start a successful cookie business?
I'm not an artist by trade. I would say I was the one who cried us out of the art classes, but with a passion to learn it, I grew a passion for it.
I think less of a sexy answer is if anybody wants to make this a business, they can. They may not be the most creative, but the most creative cookies actually aren't the primary sellers. It's unicorns. And if you can learn a unicorn cookie, man, you can make it. Like, and I say, like, my grandma will be like, are there any men there? Yeah, they're doing it. They got it. You just have to just sit down and say, this is something I'm going to learn. And I think that even without a tremendous amount of creativity, most people can still enter this market and be successful.
So with that, do you feel like the cookie aspect of this sugar cookie marketing business is super important to you? Or do you feel like you could have cake decorating, marketing, and be just as passionate about it?
For me specifically, I have really enjoyed decorating cookies, so I don't know if I'd be just as passionate with cakes. Granted, have I ever made a cake? No. But I just know that I enjoy cookies and the things that I've collected. And like when cookie cutters that are being shipped to me, I am just like cloud nining it when it says it has arrived. So I think you could have the passion for it if it was something else. I just know that my passion lies with just cookies, and that's because that's what I know.
But fortunately for marketing, we have a lot of cake bakers and we have bread makers. And then we have people who like, I sell an e-commerce, like I sell a bag where you put your pens. Can I join? Yeah, come on. Yeah, because at the end of the day, the marketing concepts are pretty universal. You can sell Corey's like sleazy cars the same way you sell beautiful cookies.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're running a marketing group, obviously, so this could apply to a lot of businesses. Why'd you decide to niche it so much, right? Because with your marketing agency, you just were focused on like marketing for local businesses, right? It wasn't like specifically tailored to a niche. And why did you decide to not have just like food business marketing, right? Like this stuff could apply to any food business.
Well, I think when it comes down to truly good marketing, if you niche down to who your target audience truly is, you can connect with them on a different level. So broad, while it opens the door to have more people like be able to potentially come into sugar cookie marketing and learn, it's too broad and you lose your messaging in there. So we said, let's even niche it farther down. We'll have a smaller audience, which is okay, but we'll be able to connect with them on different levels. And that, you know, when I say cookie bleed or color bleed or dough spread, you know, I can connect with those people versus saying food and someone's like, hey, did you get that starter for the bread? And I'm like, what are you talking about?
In the SEO world, the phrase is the riches are in the niches. And I agree. I think that we fall in love with, I can appeal to absolutely everybody, but if you could appeal to everybody, you actually appeal to probably nobody. So niching it down seemed like a great segue. And then she was doing this little passion project over there. So why not head towards cookies?
How does this apply to cookie decorators? Like, how do they niche down in their business to be more effective?
It's the menu. I like to start with, if I offer everything, I'll appeal to everyone so I can make more sales. That is the natural thought, and it's a great one because it makes so much sense. If there's something for everybody, everyone will buy it. But when I tell people, think about it, if you offered brownies, cakes, hot cocoa bombs, drop cookies, sugar cookies, you know, kombucha, this, that, the other, you're going to actually not seem like the best at one thing. It's the handyman versus the kitchen remodeler. A handyman's good at everything, but you wouldn't trust him with the big project, right?
Yeah, and down to their target audience. A lot of people are like, if you have a mouth, I can feed you, which is great, but that's not the person who's knocking, you know, in your DM saying, hey, I would like to order cookies. So it's niching down to that target audience. Like 99% of the time, it's a mother for a birthday party for one of their kids that's ordering from me. So I've niched down where I'm talking to them in my copy. We're talking about the kids. We're talking about like trunk or treats that are happening this weekend. So there's a lot of ways to niche down.
Yeah, I really like niching down in marketing because it gets really hard to tell a bunch of stories at the same time. I was telling like, we're sugar cookie marketing group. Could we be bakery business marketing group? Could we get even broader and go stuff you made at home marketing group? Well, then why stop there? Why would we just do marketing group? Like we can appeal to everybody. But as you start losing that niche down aspect, you sacrifice community and then you sacrifice communication.
Well, certainly it's worked. You've become super duper popular. You have over 36,000 people in your group. I think you actually had to like cut off people coming into the group at one point because there are just so many people like trying to get into this group. And it's only been 2 years, right? So like, has there been any growing pains that have come from like growing this so quickly?
Yeah, I'll say that community management is a little bit of trial by fire. And the one very interesting thing, and I got to thank Facebook for this, is they have a group for admins. And you have to be invited, and then they don't accept you. You pen for 5 million months. And then one day they'll be like, you are allowed in. I don't know how they decide. I'm not sure if somebody's doing research or clicking on profiles, but when you get in, they were like, hey, here's a bunch of rules that's summarized by a bunch of admins on the best way to really keep a group healthy. And before, at the beginning of this, we were like, you know, every vote matters, every opinion matters. Don't delete anything. We need growth. We need numbers. And then we're like, ooh, some of this stuff is a little toxic. And that's where the rules came from. And they're hard and fast. and people hate them. But at the end of the day, the engagement rate proves that people, while you hate being told no, and I hate being told no, you kind of love that it's such a strict community. It's about marketing only. You're not going to get dough spread questions. You're going to get, we don't have this no client bashing rule. Not because clients are great, not because clients are right, just because that toxicity is not something we want. Let's strategize how to win over this client. Because otherwise, then you get that redundancy in the comment section. I had this one client. I hate clients. No way. Great. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Let's make this a learning environment. And how can we strategize to overcome this? So probably that's one of the biggest things, is really doubling down on the rules rather than relaxing. In as many posts as go up is also the same amount of posts that probably don't go up. And for that reason, I thought it was going to cause like a decline of the group growth, but we've seen it actually really bolster the content that's being shared there.
Yeah, you certainly created quite the culture within your group. I mean, there's a definite culture. It's very alive and it's very positive, as you've very specifically tried to make it. Did you guys sit down and decide, like, okay, this is how we're going to make our group, or did it kind of come from having problems?
It came from having problems. When we first started the group, because we didn't know how big it would end up. I think when we hit the first 500 people, there was zero rules. We're fly by night, post whatever you want. Baking questions are allowed. But then I said, hey, well, this is becoming just like every other group. Every other baking group allows all the questions or whatever. And we said, hey, that's what we don't want to be. We don't want to be just, another group that someone joins and then they forget about it. So we decided, probably at 500 and 1,000 people, let's really gear this towards what we know best, which is marketing. I'm not the best cook here, but I'm the best marketer. Just kidding. But I said, we know marketing. So let's make sure that we nail our rules down so they're pretty specific. And Heather had some cute wording with them so they don't feel so bad when your post deleted and you're hit with a rule violation. But that they're pretty rock solid. So, there's no question. And if someone's post deleted, I always tell them, like, it's just business. I don't even look at your name, man. It just, you had a curse word in there, so I just deleted it. And I want to stress to people, the rules aren't how we like go out and live our lives. Like Corey and I are calling it like, hey, can you believe this one client said this to me? Wow, like this is, and maybe and don't tell my mom, but maybe I curse, but just to create the community, we're going to abide by this higher set of rules. Like, I don't think the client's always right. Maybe I curse a little bit, but not in the group. And that's just to kind of keep that group pretty clean and focused. Because I think people think like, well, the twins just love to refund clients and love all clients. No, that we just refund clients to get ahead of problems. And there are problematic clients. That's why you price high and, price them out of your market.
Speaking of problematic clients, you've obviously grown a ton, and with growing and with becoming very popular, you're obviously going to also get the haters, right? You're going to get people who don't like you. How have you dealt with that?
Well, that's why I think we've taken the approach of like, hey, you don't have to like us, but if you don't like us, that's a completely respectable approach. If you want to still gather this information, stick around, learn, you can hide my post if I make it or you think the meme is dumb. That said, if you don't like how the admin team works, just going to ask you to find another group. There's so many kind of really fantastic groups on Facebook, and you're going to find some kind of marketing knowledge or tidbit that you resonate with better. It's kind of when somebody unsubscribes from your email marketing list. It hurts. It hurts. But you need to thank those people because they are helping your open rate. They're helping in a way your email deliverability. And it is a form of a boundary for them. I don't like you. I don't like the brand. I don't like how you guys approach us. I don't like your rules. I'm going to take myself elsewhere. And that I can respect from a business standpoint and a marketing standpoint. Thank you guys so much. Like, I appreciate that you have a boundary strong enough that you take an action to make your environment more suitable for where you exist. And I don't think that we're trying to be it for everybody. And I also don't want a hostage situation where we force people to like us. So I encourage people, find what works for your business. Find where you like to, learn information. And if you think our voices are annoying, which they are, stick in the group. Don't listen to the podcast or, get the newsletter because that's a summation of what the podcast was.
Yeah, I noticed one specific instance of this where people were actually accusing you of being unethical in trying to sell your cookie photos, right?
That was an interesting one. And I actually agree with their stance from where they were standing. Because if you go to therapy or whatever, everyone's doing what they see is right in their own eyes. Very rare people are like, I know this is wrong and I'm going to do it. We know we're acting with the knowledge that we have in the best interest of what we believe. So I never want to look at somebody and be like, you're wrong, you are evil, you are bad. I think we can agree to disagree. I obviously have a $1,000 a year Shutterstock license where I buy stock photography and use them on these service-based businesses until they can get better photos. They all seem to want to hold an iPhone crooked. I'm not really sure why. And it looks like potato quality. But when we take the emotions out of it, I can say, hey, I understand that you guys may think that this looks like an easy buck. And in a way it is. If we set up a DIY kit and take the photos, the camera equipment that we have, the camera that this is $3,000, the camera that some of these photos is $7,000. That's too much money for a lot of home bakers to spend. So let us spend that. And here's a DIY kit photo. If you disagree, and we tell members of that, if you don't like this approach, just don't use them. You don't have to. But however, we do not hold the copyright. If they pay us for it, they can keep that copyright.
Yeah, so I mean, you definitely have gotten people who probably have said some pretty mean things to you, but that probably upticked when you started selling, right? Because it's great to give away free stuff. And I don't know how long you're giving away free stuff before you decided, we're actually going to start charging people for something. So when did you actually start charging people for things, and what was that transition?
What's crazy is, no, we actually have been doing this whole selling things for the last year, and just recently has it become an issue. But it's actually been around for a whole entire year and no one said anything about it. So I think the Cookie College is the membership course that David is referring to, and that just had its, 1-year anniversary?
August 31st. Last year, we launched it. Okay, of course, we hadn't monetized anything. Nothing had been sold up until this point. The only money generation was from podcast sponsors, all 3 of them. And, this company was operating at a net loss through and through. We were using day job money to invest into this one. So October 31st, the day before CookieCon, we said, okay, let's launch it. We're only going to keep it to 250 members. It won't take anything from the main group. Nothing that was given there is ever going to go away. It'll be an addition to it. So a lot of the marketing stuff that we talk about, these photos with the stock photography to be able to sell a DIY kit. We launched that, then we drive 12 hours down to Orlando in a car together. It was stupid. But while we're driving down, we end up filling the 250 slots. I thought it would take us 6 months. It took us about 24 hours. So I'm like, great, cool. That's the market saying, yeah, we like it. Let's do it. So we've been, for the last year, adding 3 classes a month to that college. The freebie photos drop about 3 times a month. The private podcast is on Wednesdays, even though I did skip this Wednesday. So sorry.
Bad on you. You're getting a paid increase.
Yeah. But then, I think that, the membership has continued to grow. The numbers have continued to say that, hey, twins, despite the little bit of drama we've seen around the freebie photos, the content, which is far more than the photos, has really helped people change their businesses. I've seen people saying, I went to Disney World and I didn't think I could. It is 100% paid by my cookie money. And I think, wow, that's the flip side of this coin. We had some lady and she's like, I wasn't able to create a DIY kit because my dog's at the veterinarian, but I used the DIY kit and I was able to still make Halloween sales. Otherwise I wouldn't have been able to, but it paid for the dog's vet bill. And, whether people say, I don't really like that approach, the Cookie College is a small fraction of it. It's a freebie photos. A huge portion of it is the community. And then obviously I'm biased because I teach the classes. It's a lot about business optimization and being able to free up time to spend with your family.
All right, so we're going to stop the conversation there. There was just too much good stuff to fit into only one episode, so you can hear the rest of my conversation with Heather and Corrie in next week's episode. For more information about this episode, go to forger.com/podcast/75. And if you're enjoying this podcast, please take a quick moment right now and leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. It doesn't have to be a long review, but it's truly the best way to support this show and will help others find this podcast. And finally, if you're thinking about selling your own homemade food, check out my free mini course where I walk you through the steps you need to take to get a cottage food business off the ground. To get the course, go to cottagefoodcourse.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.